Elmer and the Dragon. Chapter 7. The Secret. "Wake up! Wake up! It's time to see the king," chirped Flute as the red sun settled over the meadow. Elmer opened his eyes and forgot for a moment where he was. Then he jumped up and put on his knapsack. "I want to come too," yawned the dragon. "You weren't invited," said Flute. "Neither were you, Flute, come to think of it," said Elmer. "Let's all go and see what happens," suggested the dragon. So off they went to see the king. He was waiting for them at the foot of the very tall tree, nervously hopping from one foot to the other, pecking at imaginary mosquitoes. "What's that?" he asked, pointing to the dragon. "That's my good friend, the baby dragon. I rescued him 2 days ago, and now he's taking me home." "I don't like him," said the king, feeling small and helpless. "Oh, yes, you do," said Flute. "Quiet, Flute. I guess I know what I like and what I don't." The dragon drooped his head and began to back away. "Oh, well," said the king. "Come on back. If I'm going to tell the secret to anyone, it'll never be a secret anymore, and I suppose you might as well know too. I do wish it weren't such an old secret." Flute, the dragon, and Elmer waited quietly while the king looked at the ground, then up at the tree, and then down at the ground. "Treasure," he whispered, so suddenly that they all jumped into the air. "At least I think it's treasure, but I can't find out without your help." "Where?" asked Elmer. It's 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 not very far from here," said the king. Elmer, Flute, and the dragon looked every which way to see where the treasure could be. "Oh, gosh, I guess I'll have to tell you where, too," said poor old King Can the 11th. It's buried. It's buried right under this tree, in a big iron chest." "What sort of treasure?" asked Elmer. "That's what I'm dying of curiosity to know," said the king. "So that's it," sighed Flute. "And you're sure this is the right tree?" asked Elmer. "Absolutely. You see, it's much bigger than the others, and that's because it was the only one here when the settlers came. They planted the other pines and the apple orchard so they'd have wood and food when they returned. But they never came back, and their chest is still buried right here." Everybody waited for the king to continue, but he didn't. So Elmer said, "Let's dig it up." "Yes, let's," echoed Flute. "All right," said the king. "My secret's all spoiled now anyway. You'll find the shovel under that rock." "What shovel?" asked Elmer. "The settlers left a shovel over there. It's rusty by now, but it's probably better than nothing." Elmer went to get the shovel, while the king danced around on the pine needles, chirping, "I'm feeling better already." The queen kept tittering and muttering to herself, "I never thought I'd live to see this day." "Now, where should I begin digging?" asked Elmer. "It's a rhyme," said the king. "It goes like this: 4 shovel lengths from the trunk of the pine making the rock the guide for the line. Elmer carefully measured the distance and began to dig. The dragon did his best to help, while Flute and the king and queen sat watching the hole growing deeper. By now it was dark in the pine forest, but enough moonlight filtered through the branches of the tall trees so that they could just see what they were doing. They dug for 6 hours without ever hitting a root or a rock or anything like an iron chest. "Are you certain this is the right place?" asked Elmer, tired and discouraged. "I'm positive," said the king. Just then the moon went under the clouds, and Elmer's shovel hit something with a loud clang. "The chest!" they all shouted, but it was too dark to see, and they waited so long for the moon to come out that they all went to sleep, still waiting. Chapter 8. Treasure. Flute woke up and trilled so loudly that he startled the king and the queen, and Elmer, and the dragon wide awake. The other canaries had been up for an hour and were crowding around to see what was happening under the tree. Everybody peered into the big hole and gasped. "A real treasure chest with a ring in the top. But how will we ever get it out?" The king looked at Elmer, and Elmer looked at the dragon. "Dragon, do you think you could put your tail through the ring and pull up the chest?" "I'll try," said the dragon, puffing up with importance as the swarms of canaries moved aside for him. He backed up to the hole, stuck his tail down and through the ring, and pulled. Nothing happened. "Couldn't you pull harder?" suggested the king. "That's exactly what I was going to try. Just let me catch my breath," said the dragon, somewhat crossly. "After all, I'm not used to lifting heavy chests with my tail." He took a deep, deep breath and pulled very, very hard. And suddenly the chest moved. He grunted and strained and struggled and panted and slowly, slowly hoisted the chest up out of the hole. "Far enough," yelled Elmer. "Now walk forward and set it down." Crash! The chest fell down on the pine needles, and the dragon staggered off to sit down, while the canaries shouted, "Bravo!" "Quiet, quiet!" yelled King Can the 11th. "I am now about to tell you the last part of the secret. The key to this chest, well, anyway, this is the last part of the secret. My illustrious ancestor, King Can the First, stole the key from the settlers, and the key to the chest is in my nest. Go get it, Flute." "No, never mind. I'll go get it myself." The king flew up to his nest and down again with a big brass key in his beak. Elmer pried out the dirt in the keyhole with his jackknife and put in the key. Click! The lock turned. Elmer threw back the lid and picked up a note lying on top of a piece of heavy canvas. "Can you read what it says?" asked the king. "Yes," said Elmer, feeling sick with excitement as he read the note aloud. "This chest was left here by Oliver Hinkle, for the purpose of helping him and his friends to settle on this island when he returns. In the event that he does not return to find the chest himself, the chest becomes the property of whosoever discovers it. The following is a list of the items herein buried: 12 pewter plates, 6 pewter cups, 12 table settings, sterling silver, 1 iron skillet, 2 iron pots with lids, 1 coffee mill. Rubbish, interrupted the king. Isn't there anything but cooking utensils? Let me finish the list, said Elmer. He continued reading. Can each of salt and sugar, 1 axe, 1 tinderbox, 5 bags seed, including squash, corn, cabbage, wheat, and millet, 1 gold watch and chain belonging to my wife Sarah, 1 sterling silver harmonica, 6 bags of gold pieces. What will you do with them, King dear? Asked the Queen. I won't do anything with them. I'll just have them and be rich. Shall I unpack now? Asked Elmer, who was anxious to see the sterling silver harmonica. By all means, ordered King Can the 11th, strutting back and forth in front of the twittering canaries. Elmer unpacked everything and at last came to the sterling silver harmonica. He blew on it gently, and the sound was so sweet that all the canaries stopped chattering and listened. The king listened too, with tears in his eyes. When Elmer had finished playing, the bear went over the mountain. The king flew up to a branch of the pine and said solemnly, Elmer, on behalf of the Queen and myself and all the other Feather Islanders, I want to thank you and your dragon friend for digging up this treasure and thereby ridding us of the plague of curiosity. I now present you with that silver harmonica which you play so beautifully, and 3 of the 6 bags of gold. And to this brave dragon I present the gold watch and chain. Elmer, fasten it around his neck. Elmer hooked the chain around the dragon's neck, arranging the watch at his throat. How's that? Asked Elmer. I can't see it, but it feels just fine, said the proud baby dragon. The birds all clapped their wings, and then the dragon, who really didn't care for speeches, remarked, Looking at those pots and plates makes me hungry. Let's celebrate and eat something. Goodness, said the Queen. I don't believe we've ever had a celebration before. What shall we eat? Tangerines, said Elmer. I bet you've never tasted one. Elmer peeled 12 of the 31 tangerines he had left in his knapsack and put 1 on each of the 12 pewter plates. Then he hurried off to pick a good mess of skunk cabbages and ostrich ferns for the dragon. When he came back, everyone crowded around to feast. Elmer sat beside the dragon and ate 9 tangerines all by himself. Then he played Turkey in the Straw on the sterling silver harmonica, while the king did a jig on a pewter plate. Soon everybody joined in the dancing, and they danced themselves to sleep all over the pine needles under the great tall tree.